Today, we're digging into the deeply perplexing case of China Eastern Airlines flight MU-5735. This was a modern passenger jet that did something planes are, well, they're just not supposed to do.
So let's just get right to the heart of it, this central mystery of this whole thing. This plane didn't just descend, it didn't glide, it plummeted. It fell out of the sky almost vertically, like a stone. So the question is, how on earth is that even possible?
Just imagine it. You're cruising along at a totally normal altitude, almost 30,000 feet up. Everything is routine. And then, in an instant, the floor just drops out from under you.
That's how fast it happened, from that cruising altitude all the way to the ground in just 95 seconds. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that's about the same speed as a skydiver intentionally jumping out of a plane. But this wasn't a skydiver, this was a massive passenger jet. Okay, so to really understand what makes this so incredibly shocking, let's break down the facts of the flight and get into just how unnatural this crash really was. So here are the basics. The flight was MU-5735, a totally routine 2-hour trip within China back on March 21, 2022. The plane itself was a Boeing 737-800. For about an hour, everything was totally normal, and then, at 2:20 p.m., it started to fall. And here is the fundamental thing you have to understand. Even if a plane has a catastrophic failure, even if both engines completely die, it is designed to become a glider. The wings create lift, which allows the pilots to control the plane as it comes down over many minutes, covering miles and miles of distance. A vertical nosedive like this one, it basically defies the laws of how an airplane is supposed to work. So, in the aftermath, the big question shifted from what happened to the all-important why. Investigators swarmed the remote crash site, and they were absolutely desperate to find any clue that could explain the unexplainable.
The data from flight trackers tells such a chilling story. You can see it right here. A normal takeoff, a perfectly level cruise at 29,000 feet for over an hour, and then just this line that goes almost straight down. It is the digital signature of an absolute disaster.
But wait, look closely at that data, because this is where it gets even weirder. There's this strange, brief moment during the fall at around 8,000 feet where the plane actually regained a little altitude before it kept plunging. What could possibly cause that? Was there a struggle in the cockpit? A momentary recovery? It's just another piece of this really complex puzzle.
And the search for answers on the ground was incredibly difficult. The plane went down in this remote, hilly, forested area. To make matters worse, heavy rains just turned the whole site into mud. The number one goal, of course, was to find the two black boxes, the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder. And amazingly, they found one. It was pretty beat up on the outside, but investigators were hopeful that the crucial data on the inside was still there.
Okay, so with some data recovered, investigators could begin that methodical process of elimination. They started looking at all the usual suspects in a plane crash and, one by one, started crossing them off the list.
The first and most obvious thing to check? The weather. But according to the China Meteorological Administration, the conditions were perfectly fine. The temperature was normal, winds were moderate, visibility was great. So we can say for sure, weather did not cause this crash.
Now, let's be super clear about something. When people hear Boeing 737 crash, a lot of minds immediately jump to the 737 MAX and its Troubled Flight Control Software, MCAS. This slide shows exactly why that's not the case here. This flight was on a 737-800. That's an older, time-tested model with one of the best safety records in the entire industry. It did not have the MCAS system, so we can totally rule out that specific technical problem.
And this is where the investigation takes a very dark turn. Because when you've ruled out weather and you've ruled out common mechanical failures, and you're left with an event that just seems to defy physics, you have to start considering the unthinkable.
Listen to what one aviation expert, Neil Hansford, said. He basically argued that even in severe crashes, planes glide down. For a plane to fall like a rock, he says, the chances of it being a simple accident are incredibly low.
And he wasn't alone. An American investigator, Michael Daniel, was even more blunt. Looking at the flight data, he concluded it was most likely foul play, that someone, either in the cockpit or someone who took control, did this on purpose. And the terrible thing is, we've seen this before. It is incredibly rare, but similar vertical nosedives have happened. Both the SilkAir crash in '97 and the Egypt Air crash in '99
were ultimately determined to be intentional acts by a pilot. The flight data from MU-5735 looks hauntingly similar to those cases.
Look, a story like this is terrifying. I get it. It can make you never want to step on a plane again. So it's really important that we zoom out and put this single, horrifying event into the much, much broader context of global air safety.
It's the question on everyone's mind, right? After hearing about a crash this violent, is it still safe to get on a plane? Well, the data has a very, very clear answer.
Let's just look at the raw numbers. Flying is, statistically, one of the safest things you can possibly do. For the exact series of plane involved here, the Boeing 737NG, the crash rate is 0.07 per million flights. That number is so small it's hard to even wrap your head around. It means an event like this is a profound, almost statistical impossibility.
You see, the whole nature of air disasters has changed. Thanks to incredible technology, weather almost never causes fatal crashes anymore. And thanks to security, hijackings are exceedingly rare. Today, when a major incident does happen, it almost always comes down to either a very complex technical failure or, as is suspected here, a deliberate human act.
And that really leaves us with this final, unsettling thought. We have engineered these incredible flying machines to be unbelievably safe, to withstand storms and engine failures and immense stress. But all of that incredible engineering can be overcome by human intent. It forces us to confront the one variable that you can never fully predict in any system, the human being at the controls.